Hey guys, I'm just going to be honest with you. There was a morning I walked into my classroom, looked at my students, and then completely threw out the lesson plan right there on the spot. I had no backup plan. I just went with my instinct. And you know what? It was the best thing I could have ever done. I had a beautiful unit plan. August Wilson, fences, Troy Maxon, all the complexity, all the themes, and all the literary richness you can ask for. And I looked at my students that morning and I knew they weren't ready for fences. They needed something else, something for the soul. So I closed my binder and said a little prayer and asked myself, what do these children actually need today? And the answer came back to me. Carpe diem. Seize the day. Stay with me, fam, because what happened next changed everything. Hey, fam, welcome back to the Teacher Innovator Podcast, where we talk about reshaping our classrooms into places of wonder, joy, inquiry, and creativity. Because our students deserve nothing less, and neither do we. I'm your host, and today we're going to get into it. We're talking about one of the most radical, the most courageous, and honestly, the most necessary things a teacher can do. And it's not in your curriculum map, and it's not on your pacing calendar, and your department chair or your AP might give you the side eye. We're talking about ditching the curriculum to adjust the heart and mind of your students. Now, before you close this episode, stay with me because this isn't just about throwing your plans in the trash. This is about something far more important: reading the room, knowing your students, trusting your instincts, and being willing to say, today we pivot because the lesson my students need is not the lesson I planned. And here's the real question I want you to sit with today. When was the last time you made a teaching decision based on what your students needed emotionally, not just academically? Think about that. Let's go. All right, so let's get into it. Reading the room is a teaching skill and it's advanced. Let's go back to the morning in Brooklyn. I'm a 10th grade English teacher in a small high school. I've got this unit on Fences by August Wilson. And listen, I love August Wilson. The man is a genius. Troy Maxon, Bono, Rose, the whole family is a masterwork of Black storytelling. And I was ready. But I walked into my classroom that morning and something was off. Students shuffled in like they were carrying invisible weights. Their eyes were low, voices quiet, they were dragging. The energy in the room just felt off, like the air had been let out. Now I could tell, and I could have ignored it, but I had to address it. I could have said, open your notebooks. Here's the do now. Let's talk about this dramatic structure in Act One. And technically, I would have been teaching. But I've been doing this long enough to know a mind that is not present cannot learn, and a heart that is hurting will not open to a text about somebody else's pain until it has somewhere to put its own. Soretta Hammond, in her research, talks about how the brain needs to feel safe in order to learn. That's neuroscience. And as teachers, we have always known this. We just didn't always have the citation. So here's the move, fam. Reading the room is not optional. it's instructional, it's data. When you walk into the classroom and you feel that energy, that is information. And what you do with it determines everything that follows. Your innovation move, people. Build in a 3-minute emotional check in into your opening routine. You don't have to do therapy, no oversharing. It's just a simple signal, a number, a weather report, something. Today I'm feeling a word on a sticky note, just so the students can tell you where they are and how they're feeling. And then you must listen. So there I am, binder in hand, August Wilson on the front page, and I made a decision. I put the unit aside. I said to my students, before we go into anything today, I need to know how you all doing? Like for real. The room opened up, not dramatically, not with tears, and everybody wasn't kumbaya, just kind of gently. Students started talking a little bit, just enough. And what I heard underneath every quiet voice was the same thing. We're tired. We don't see the point. It's hard out here. Now, I'm not a counselor. I'm an English teacher. So what do I know about addressing these feelings that are in the room? I go directly to text because here's what literature can do that almost nothing else can. It can name the unnamed. It finds words for feelings we've been carrying around without language. It says, yes, I see you. You are not alone in this. And that's when I knew my students didn't need August Wilson's story right now. They needed a story about their own power and choosing to live fully, intentionally, on purpose. They needed Carpe Diem. And yes, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking about Dead Poet Society, Robin Williams standing on a desk, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Captain, my Captain. Yes, absolutely. That energy, that urgency, that conviction, that the young people are capable of greatness right now, not someday. And that's what I wanted to bring into my room. So, your innovation move is to give yourself permission to pivot. Have a break glass in case of emergency unit living in your back pocket. My mentors always said you have your plan A, your plan B, and then you have your plan Z. Something that is student centered, emotionally resonant, and connected to the timeless human themes. You don't have to abandon rigor to address the heart. You just have to be creative about how you get there. And that leads me to my next point: how to build a text set that speaks to the soul. Here's where the teacher in me came alive. I started pulling texts, poems, essays, speeches, self help excerpts that weren't corny. They were real. Things that asked students a genuine question: how are you choosing to spend the time you've been given? We read poetry that talked about the urgency and joy. We read excerpts from people who faced real adversity and chosen to rise anyway. We talked about Maria Oliver asking, what is it you plan to do with the one wild and precious life? And y'all, the question hit my 10th graders differently than anything on any state test ever had. We listen to music because music always is a text in my classroom. Always Andy Irene, Lauryn Hill, songs that don't just ask you to suffer quietly, but to show up fully, unapologetically. And something started happening in that room. Students who hadn't said a word in weeks started talking. Not because I told them to, because the text gave them something to say. because the text met them where they were and then asked them to go further. That is the power of curating a text set built around the human experience, not just a curriculum or standards. Your innovation move, people. Build your text set around essential questions that are also life questions. Not just how does the author use figurative language, but what does it mean to truly live? Standards live inside of real questions. Authentic engagement comes from texts that breathe. Now, here is where the magic happens. And this is the part that still gives me chills. After we read, we discussed, we listened, and we wrestled with the idea of seizing the day, I gave my 10th grade students an assignment. I said, you're going to deliver a speech to our underclassmen, the ninth graders, and you're going to encourage them to seize every single day they've been given. And you're going to use rhetorical devices to do it. You're going to use ethos, pathos, logos, anaphora, repetition, and imagery. All of it. You're going to use the tools of language because language is power and you have something important to say. And family, let me tell you, these students who walked in with their heads down, they became orators, they became writers, they became advocates. They stood up in front of their peers and they said things like, you can't get this day back. You cannot. So, what are you going to do with it? One student, I won't forget it. She stood up and she used anaphora like she had been studying rhetoric her whole life. Every morning you wake up is a gift. Every hallway you walk through is a chance. Every moment you choose to be present is a victory. She wrote that, a 10th grader in Brooklyn. That is what happens when you build a unit around the student's humanity first and invite the academic skill through the back door. And here's the pedagogical truth underneath all of this. Gloria Lansing Billings calls it culturally relevant pedagogy. Goldie Muhammad calls it cultivating genius. She believes in incorporating identity, intellectualism, criticality, skill, and joy all in one. When students see themselves in the curriculum and when they feel that the learning is for them, not just to get through, they rise every single time they rise. Your innovation move, people. Let your students speak to each other. The most powerful audience for young people is not an adult with a grading rubric. We need to get over that. It's a peer who might actually be changed by what they hear. Build an authentic audience for student work. It transformed the assignment from just merely a task into purpose. So here's your innovation challenge for the week, fam. I want you to create a back pocket unit. That's it. One unit built around a universal human theme: resilience, belonging, purpose, identity, courage, joy. Something that could live in your back pocket. It could be pulled out on days when your students walk in and you know that the lesson that you plan is not just right. Pull about 5 texts or sources. You can choose, if you're a social studies teacher, you could choose some sources. Literacy teachers, you could go to your poems, your essays, a speech, song lyrics, maybe a short video, like the kind on TikTok, right, with a powerful message or image. Build them around an essential question that is also a life question. And then trust yourself enough to use it. You don't have to wait for permission. You don't have to ask. You already know what your students need. You have to trust that knowing. Share what you create. Tag me. Let me know. Let's build this resource together, fam, because innovators, we don't quit. Teachers, I need you to hear me before you go. What you do every single day is extraordinary. You showed up, sometimes tired, sometimes frustrated, sometimes uncertain, and you still chose to see the full human being sitting across from you. You still ask, what do they need? And then you find a way to give it. And that's not a small thing, that's everything. August Wilson will always be there. The curriculum will always be there. But the 10th graders who walked into your room on a hard Monday, heavy with something they can't name, will always be there right now. Seize that moment, fam. We do what they say, but we do it our way. We're innovators. We don't quit. Dust yourself off and try again. Peace, everybody.